All right, today we're gonna make a keto cheesecake. It's a simple vanilla cheesecake that we can make a berry puree to go over the top, or some sort of sauce. We'll get to that later, but for right now, we're gonna make a cheesecake. And it's fairly simple. As you can see, all the ingredients are already laid out. There's not a lot to it, okay? So we've already preheated the oven. This one's gonna be a slower cook, lower temperature, and then if we want to, it's New York style, but we're going to try to, if we're going to try to brown it, we're going to do it at the end. So we've already got the oven preheating to 200 degrees. I've got the springform pan already greased with some parchment paper on the bottom. Made a crust. The crust was simply a cup and a half of almond flour, a quarter cup of butter, a teaspoon of vanilla, a tablespoon of monk fruit sweetener, and just a pinch of cinnamon to give it a graham cracker type flavor, even though it's not a graham cracker, it's still keto friendly. So with that, let's get started on this. So with this, we need to start with our cream cheese. So we're going to take the cream cheese. We only need 40 ounces of this. This is a 48 ounce brick. So we're going to cut a little bit off of it here and take about 8 ounces off of it. It is softened to room temperature, so it's really soft and ready to go. Don't worry, my counter's clean. All right, so take that off, set it aside. We'll just take the rest of this and put it in the mixer. You can use packages to make this a little easier. So, all right, so we got that in there. And then we're gonna put a cup of sweetener in there. Take a sweetener. This monk fruit sweetener is really good. It's as close to sugar as I've found. This monk fruit from Canto is it's a good blend. So use whatever artificial sweetener you like. Okay, so we'll get that going. All right, so we want to make sure we push this all down in here, like so. We want to make sure it's evenly beat up. We don't want to overbeat it to get too many air bubbles in it, but we can pop them as they go, so it's not too big of a deal. I'll get that back down there. We'll go after it again for a second. All right, so that's all nice and creamed. As you can see, it's a little fluffy and creamy. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and scrape the bowl and add sour cream. 1/2 cup sour cream. Now it's a 3/4. Let's make sure we use the right measuring cup. All right. It's all scraped off the sides here. All right, that's good to go. 2 tablespoons of vanilla. 1, 2, there's a little more for good measure. Make sure with your vanilla that it's sugar-free. All right, so let's get this mixed up. Sour cream's gonna make it nice and smooth. You want to mix this a good minute to make sure it's all nice and combined. All right. Now that's done, we got to add the eggs. All right, so now I'll add these eggs here. Just crack them in a bowl first. That way I make sure we don't get any eggshells in the batter, because that would not be good. Nobody likes eggshells in their cheesecake. All right, so mix this up again. Let's go ahead and scrape it again just to make sure it's all getting mixed up real well, because we want to do this on a low to medium speed for a minute or so. Again, we're trying to make sure we don't over mix it because we don't want to put too many air bubbles in it, but at the same time it wants to be well combined, so we got to find a balance there. Cheesecakes are actually pretty easy to make. Most people like them, so. So here's the crust. Like I said, it's just almond flour, sweetener, vanilla, and a little bit of cinnamon. Oh, and some melted butter, 1/4 cup of melted butter. So we just press it in there evenly, and then what we do is we make sure to chill it while we make all this so that this gets set. It's pretty good and set in there. So now we're going to take this batter, we'll scrape it all off of here. Keep it in the bowl. All right. All right, what we're gonna do take this bowl off. And just scoop it right on in there. Now I greased my pan on the bottom and the sides with just butter, but I also put parchment paper on the bottom just to make it easier to release when it's time to cut it. All right. I'll just smooth it on out here. Just like you're frosting a cake. As you can see, there's some air bubbles in it, and that's okay. We'll just tackle those later. All we're gonna do is pop them with the toothpick as we're baking it. All right, so here's the cheesecake. So now all we gotta do is put it in the oven, which is preheated. And we'll go from there. All right, so our oven's all preheated, so go ahead and open that sucker up. I'm gonna set that in there. And this is gonna take a few hours, so we're talking like 3 hours or so. So we're gonna let it do its thing. We're gonna leave it in there for 45 minutes, and then we'll look and see if there's any bubbles. Pop them around then, and then after that, it's gonna take 2.5, 3 hours. So we'll get started on this, and see you in a little while. All right, so the timer's beeping for the first 45 minutes. Let's turn that off. Take a look at what we got here. All right, not too bad. There's only a couple little bubbles. I'll just take this and pop them real quick. Yeah, not too bad at all. Yeah, I know the door's open. There's one, and just a few. All right, looking pretty good. So now we're gonna set the timer for 2.5 hours and we'll come back to it then. All right, so the cheesecake should be done. Let's take a look here. See what we got going on. Well, that looks just about perfect. I'm gonna make sure I got proper temperature. All right, so it's a little low yet, so let's give it another 10 minutes. And we'll pull it out. All right, so our cheesecake is done. We're gonna go ahead and pull that out. We're gonna put it on a cooling rack, let it sit for 5 minutes before doing anything to it. And we'll show you that here in a second. All right, so the cheesecake has been sitting on the counter for about 5 minutes. As you can see, the top is already starting to fall. It's not nearly as hot as it was, so we're gonna just put this paring knife down the edge here. We're gonna go around it a couple of times. Oh, it's a little warm. Let's go around it a couple of times just to separate it from the edge of the pan. And then we're gonna let this sit here for 2.5, 3 hours, you know, whatever it takes to get this thing nice and cool. I mean, it's still pretty warm. When it's cooling, it's going to continue to fall a little bit in the pan. So we should expect from where it was at the top about 3/4 of an inch to an inch. Then it's going to just condense and compress. When I put it in the fridge, I'm going to cover this with some plastic wrap after it's nice and cool, and then we'll leave it in there for at least 6 hours. I'm probably going to leave mine in there overnight. And then we'll come back to it and see what it looks like. All right, so the cheesecake is nice and cool. So we're just gonna take some plastic wrap here and cover it up before we put it in the fridge. A little more. And then we'll see what it looks like tomorrow. Now, the plastic wrap's probably not going to stick real well to this, but that's all right. We just want to cover it up. So, all right, so it's covered up. So I'll throw it in the fridge, and we'll see it, you know, in about 12 hours. So the cheesecake's been in the fridge overnight. As you can see, it's fallen a little bit. That's to be expected because it's condensed, so we're just gonna make sure that it's released here by taking this knife around the edge here. You just want to go around it until it's easy to go around. Spot right there. There we go. All right. And you just flip your lever. And there you are. It's got a nice crust, vanilla cake all the way through. You know, it's not 2.5 inches thick. And it's ready to serve. Got some blueberry sauce I just made from fresh blueberries and raspberry sauce to put on top of this. So it's gonna be really good. So I hope you liked that video. If you'd like to see more, consider giving me a like and a subscribe, and we'll see you next time.